So allow me to please welcome Sharad Kumar Agarwal, CDIO JK Tyre. Allow me to also please welcome Saurabh Sinha, CIO Indigo. Well, we also have with us Naful Islam, Head ICT Hug Group. Let's also welcome Dr. Pradeep Chatterjee, Head Digital Transformation from Tata Motors. There we go. We also have with us the very loving Annie Matthews, CIO Mother Dairy. Vishnu Bhavraju, Senior Industry Executive Manufacturing Vertical from Microsoft India, is also going to be talking to us live. And yes, this is all going to be spearheaded by our moderator, who would be Abhik Chatterjee, MD, BCG. With that, Abhik, it's over to you.
Shikha, thank you so much. Pleasure to be on this event, and thanks for the opportunity. And a warm welcome and good morning also to my esteemed co-panelists here. As I begin, first of all, wishing you all, those who are watching as well as those who are on the panel, a very good day, and more importantly, stay fit and stay well. I think this year has been extremely special in many ways. I don't think any of us will forget this year for the way it has been. And in this panel today, I would say we've got a great mix of leaders from segments such as airline and auto, as well as from the industrial side, to, for example, on the entire food manufacturing side as well. And each of them have been impacted, disrupted through this year in very different forms. As the theme of the session today is around manufacturing, supply chain, and how technology broadly helps us win and then claw back in this world. Let me start with perhaps a first question, and I'll also invite our specific panelists here. So we've already heard, for example, a whole host of different technology terms, right? Be it Industry 4.0, platformization, edge computing, blockchain, etc. for some time now. In our developing markets, especially India, Southeast Asia, etc., the uptake has been mixed. Some industries have tried their hand at it. Definitely the success and the value creation may or may not be as acclaimed as what we have seen in the West. What I would really want to start with is potentially with Sharad, Saurabh, and then Pradeep and Annie to get a little bit of flavor around how are each of you driving digital excellence within your organization. Secondly, what have been a couple of the most, what I would say, interesting things that you have done in the past few months, and obviously beyond, getting workforces to work remotely, etc. But some interesting color around how have you guys worked with technology, deployed technology, and some learnings around it. So Sharad, if you can start with sharing your perspective, and then we will go around in that order.
Yeah, thank you, Avik. Good morning to everyone. So what we have been trying to do in the digital perspective is make the management understand the importance of it. So probably COVID came handy to explain it better than we would have. So we have been trying to use every technology, be it AI, ML, RPA, IoT, everything is being tried, and wherever we are finding success, we are trying to adopt it laterally, horizontally. Important thing is that now these technologies are bringing value. If we look 5 years back, probably these were more terms which were more relevant for Western world, less for us. But of late, we have started doing multiple things. So in last couple of months, we have been able to do a very unique case of digitizing our claim journey. So initially it was taking around 3 to 7 days for a claim to be settled. Now it happens on the fly within 10 to 15 minutes. Similarly, adoption of RPA got fastened. And Industry 4.0 is an investment heavy, I would say, technology, but yes, we are doing it wherever we are finding value, not across. So in newer plants and the relevant plants only. That's from my side, Abhi.
Thank you, Sharad. Saurabh, would you want to share your perspective as well from an Indigo view?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. For Indigo, the COVID did not kickstart the digital transformation. The digital transformation has been in vogue for last couple of years, I must say. It's possibly that during this COVID, we have been able to expedite certain initiatives in digital transformation. So, we are traditionally a low margin industry, aviation, I mean. And it is up to us that how do we keep our cost structures and the cost frames very, very effective. And the airlines all over the world, those airlines who have actually become profitable or have performed better than the rest have been due to the fact that they have managed their cost structures pretty well. So efficiency, improving the productivity has been, and innovation obviously has been in our DNA. And we have been practicing it for several years, right from the time when we were formed in 2006. Now, for the last 2 years, yes, we have actually put our foot on the pedal to transform ourselves digitally. And as I said, that certain initiatives like your less touch travel or contactless travel kind of initiatives which are related to short-term planning and using data of short-term to do your forecast are some of the new things that we have been able to kickstart during the COVID period. Otherwise, it has been a process, a journey that we have undertaken for the last couple of years. Over to you, Abhi.
Thank you. Pradeep?
Yeah. So we adopted similar approach, what Sharad also explained, that trying to identify some of the business opportunities where there can be some digital intervention and which can actually bring in some benefits. And basis that we tried out several technologies, including RPA, chatbots, voice call analysis, image processing, and others. So the approach what we adopted is for RPA, for example, we didn't go for RPA as a first solution to automate any of the processes. We first looked at it that whether a simple IT automation or two systems or two applications talking to each other can solve a lot of this automation work or not. And as a last step, we approached that if nothing happens and there is a manual intervention which is repetitive in nature, then we brought in RPA over there. So having this basic principle in place, we automated a lot of processes which are repetitive through the RPA solutions what we have. The next focus area was into chatbots, and since our focus had been on experience enhancement, that what can really enhance the experience of our customers and employees, we ventured into a lot of different areas. For example, chatbots in various employee engagements, then pre-onboarding engagement before an employee joins Tata Motors. We are trying to have an engagement with that particular person also through a bot. Then building a talent community bot, which just recently got launched 2 days back. Then we also introduced some survey feedbacks, and then having some natural language processing based on the feedbacks what is getting covered, so that we exactly try to understand that what the customer is trying to say. Other than this, we have introduced some voice call analytics, because there are a lot of these calls which are getting recorded from our customers who are contacting our contact center. And then we are trying to understand the various categories within that calls, and also trying to understand the customer sentiments. So if the customer is not so happy, then our relevant people can actually get in touch with the customer and address their pain points. So that's another focus area where we had been operating. The third and the most important one is also on image processing and IoT based technology, because since we are into manufacturing, I think the quality of the product plays a very important role. And as a result, in order to identify several quality defects And in order to also do some measurements of some of the dimensions, we try to bring in some solutions actually which can bring in a CMM level accuracy even in a in-process type of a manufacturing, so that there is 100% inspection of all the products what we are processing, plus some of the surface defect identification and other things. So from a TQM perspective, image processing basis AI and IoT, a mix of all these technologies together is another focus area where we have been working on.
Thank you, Dr. Pradeep. Annie, would your perspective?
Good morning, everyone. I think COVID and digital relation, I would put it as of the pre-COVID phase was symptomatic of you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink kind of situation. We used to do a lot of IT digital initiatives. Always be a challenge. It would be we would be flogging the initiative everywhere and try to get people to use it, and it was a very uphill journey. COVID made that a whole lot easier. Now you have the reverse scenario where the users are asking us to bring more digital initiatives into play, and we are kind of struggling with the bandwidth to deliver as per the user requirement. If you typically look at what we do, right? Even though we handle around 40 lakh liters of milk per day, it's a very distributed setup. So while there is a desire to do a lot of industry 4.0 kind of initiatives, we find that the manufacturing scale being fragmented makes some of those initiatives quite challenging. What we do focus on is a lot of supply chain projects, right? That is where the crux of our IT initiatives or digital initiatives tend to be. If you look at temperature monitoring, route optimization, location monitoring, asset throughput management, these are where the efficiencies lie and where a lot of technology initiatives have already been put into place. If you ask what we did during the COVID phase, we did a lot of pilots. We did a lot of pilots with RPA. We did a lot of pilots with preventive maintenance using vibration sensors, right? Again, some initiatives around, we tried to onboard a lot of processes where there was a lot of paper movement earlier, and that was an easy win. We found that users now no longer want to touch paper. So any process which involved paper, which involved a lot of traveling, it was an easy win to change over to a digital setup. For instance, distributor onboarding was a process which we could completely digitalize, right? Again, we have a lot of marketing investments into hoardings and dealer boards kind of thing. And as a process of verification, our sales team has to visit those sites and upload pictures or bring in pictures and certify that these sites have been put up, etc. That is something which we are doing a pilot on, converting it into a digital, getting the vendor, because we then also have the authentic location where the hoarding is put up or the board is put up. So some of these have been easy wins for us, and at different stages of maturity, some in pilot, some in actual adoption. That is where we are with our digital initiatives. Over to you, Abhi.
Thank you. I think let me build on this train that is evolving. As you rightly mentioned, if you clearly look at value pools, there is an element of going even tighter on cost. There is an element of new revenue pools, and there is a complete new element of new businesses, because what many companies and even large, small, right from the innovative to perhaps more the not so ones who are thinking, each of them are really looking at means and ways to expand partner. What this is meaning is, and let's look at a slightly, as I would say, slightly deeper digital nuance. It is putting up a lot of pressure on the need to come up rapidly with new services and products, services and solutions, product, services and solutions, all three of them for that matter, and obviously with digital front facing all of it. The second part is especially on the cost side, and as Annie and Pradeep you mentioned, there is an increasing tendency to obviously and the right tendency to really use data analytics and the closed loop mechanisms to really drive excellence on the ground. Now, with these kind of what I would say demand pressures, each of you in your role as not only digital shapers but also execution artists, how are you? I mean, how have you guys managed to look at your entire portfolio? Because I'm sure there was a lot of core IT legacy mix of digital. Suddenly there is an entire squeeze on the entire type of budget that I would want to look to, and hence how do you play that balance? And my second point is slightly different, which is, I mean, I do a lot of work in analytics. One of the things I've realized is that the companies who manage to evolve through this crisis best have been ones who have been able to not only manage data within the company, but more importantly, a lot of external data, unstructured data, ability to comprehend the market and place their solutions and optimize things around that. So how have you really looked at resetting your portfolio? Point number one. And point number two is perspective around how have each of you gone about developing some of the data and data platforms within your organization, because the starting point and the evolution and the backdrop is very different. So if for this one, Nafaul, we start with you and then go to Pradeep, Saurabh, and Vishnu, a good perspective from a Microsoft lens, more as an outside of industry provider lens into the market.
Good morning, everyone. Impact and resetting my project portfolio and then accelerate fast data in digital and platforms is really challenging, because if I try to show my experience, so since I'm working in a FMCG company, okay, so that means it's a food-based company producing the food. So maximum works are done with the manual, no digital, because the manufacturing of the food, okay. And so we are lucky that our food business is going very good. But thing is that I'm facing a lot of challenges when I am going to sell this food to the market. Suppose I have more than 2,000 salespeople. They are working outside my company and working whole the Bangladesh. They are selling the orders. They are taking the orders from outlet, a lot of things. So I'm facing the main problem is the communication. The communication, I'm facing a lot of problems. So when I'm getting this kind of requests from a management of what kind of communication we can make, then we are proposing that, okay, so we can go digitally. Okay, so planning in the communication is a very important. It could be free product or it could be paid product. So whatever these things, the communication is very important, and the planning for another risk factors like human resource risk factors and communication risk factors, we have to maintain in this way. Suppose we have a lot of project in before COVID, like SAP project and the machine automation project. But thing is that after when we facing the COVID, then we are emphasis on the main thing is the planning. After that execution, then monitoring and controlling. Okay, so and the main thing is that keeping management in the faith. Okay, so what project is going on, we can do, and we can do digitally. Suppose a lot of project should be done in physically, but thing is that in COVID, and we have a lot of clients across the globe, so they are not coming in Bangladesh. So we have to make a communication platform and project portfolio platform so that we can monitor and control the project. So whatever is going on, we have to manage in digitally, and I am facing a lot of problems to manage these kind of things. But at the end, we had to manage, and we have to manage.
Pradeep, quick reflections from your side on this one.
Sure. I think this is a very relevant question, and especially during this pandemic situation, actually where things changed a lot. So we had been taking our digital journey in a certain way and with a certain plan and project plans which were there. But all of a sudden, this work from home and the pandemic situation actually changed a lot of things. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, that we had been working on a lot of this quality related issues, which are primarily related to shop floor implementations. But then that got a setback with the pandemic setting in. So again, the project plans and other things got disrupted by doing this. And a lot of new requirements actually erupted all of a sudden with the pandemic situation. For example, there was a requirement that we put up a digital solution to capture the well-being of all the employees on a daily basis. How do we monitor the well-being of the employees and their families? And to reach out to support them with a doctor in case anybody is having a problem. So proactively, the doctors were able to reach them. We deployed an employee bot which used to monitor the health status of all the employees. And if somebody reported sick, a doctor will proactively reach out to them to help them out. Some of the solutions which also came up as a requirement is how do we monitor social distancing, or how do we monitor that people are coming intermittently, even who are coming into the office or something for some requirement is wearing a mask or other things. The other area which came into prominence is since people started working from home, but nevertheless, I mean, during the lockdown period, nobody was allowed to travel, but post opening up or the unlock started, people at some times need to come to office for some of the work, but then we introduced a solution for Book My Seat, where actually people can come to office and book a seat, and which helps in maintaining the social distancing between people so that that is not getting violated. Then how do we maintain the number of head counts who is entering into the office or the canteen? Because there were some restrictions, government regulations were also there. So several of these solutions came up as a requirement which we started catering to. So our priorities actually got shifted from a lot of those manufacturing solutions where the plants were closed to a lot of these type of solutions which were required in the pandemic. Another surge what we saw, and in fact it cleared a lot of myth amongst us. Initially the thought process was in manufacturing sector you have a lot of blue collar workforce, and we thought that they are digital savvy, or they might not be used to using the digital technologies. And in fact, in the past, we thought that whether this particular solution will work for the blue collar workforce or not. But when this lockdown happened and we introduced some of the training sessions through e-learning, because the plant was shut down, so why not train these people? And we saw good adaptability of the digital solutions amongst even the blue collar workforce. People accessing the training module through their mobile phones or through their laptops, and there was a huge adaptability over there. So as a result, a lot of focus shifted to e-learning, module developments and other things, so that people remain engaged and they keep learning in this time. So I mean, the net point is that the priorities actually got shifted from what we had been doing earlier to the pandemic, post when the pandemic crept in. Gradually things are coming to normalcy, but now again it's a mix of both whatever was there in the pandemic solution as well as what is there in the normal solution. We are trying to now have a mix of both of these and then trying to prioritize our project portfolio and then trying to take it forward. Sure. So that's how we are trying to address this.
Sure. Saurabh, I'll go to you for some quick perspectives. I mean, airlines have had a very, very interesting year this year, so very keen to hear from you. And then Vishnu, I'll have you just quickly add on to once Saurabh finishes.
See, we are in a connected world, and so is our airline has to be connected as well. Okay. So what we had done, the fundamental of our strategy has been that connecting the four cornerstones, which are airports, aircrafts, the enterprise, which are our employees, and the customer, obviously. Now, these have been our four cornerstones, and we had always focused on connecting these four cornerstones, and that's where the connected airline, the concept of connected airline came in. Now, I've been attending some of these panel discussions in the recent past, and what I realized is that in some cases, people have been highlighting the challenges that people face, the companies face, the organization face towards working from home or working remotely. For us, you can well say that 25, even in a normal condition, 25 to 30% of our workforce is mobile, which are our pilots and cabin. Okay, so we have been providing them remote access, remote connections. Our operations are distributed. Today, we operate out of 62 domestic airports. Okay. And there are every place, be it a large airport, small airport, whatever it is, how big is the operation, doesn't matter. But remote connection has to be given, and has to be given also not only at the offices, but in certain remote areas of an airport, say the hangar or the maintenance office, which are like porta cabins sitting on the ramp. So for us, yes, the scale had to be increased, but in terms of readiness, I think we were already there. As a matter of fact, we could turn around this remote home connection and all that stuff probably in a couple of days. I mean, to stabilize people and all that stuff. It didn't take us any long, and that was not a challenge, to be very honest. Okay. Now, coming back to where our priorities have changed, yes, as I said, we have been on this digital journey for the last 20 to 24 months. And what we did was that, yes, we did change some priorities. Now, priorities changed in certain areas. One is, and the focus has been a touchless or a less touch operation, which means the interaction with the personal interaction, the human interaction between the customer and an employees are minimized. And of course, the internal interaction, of course, has to minimize in terms of person to person. So what we focused on is, from a customer perspective, we tried pushing, and the government mandate in terms of remote check-in of a bag as well as a remote check-in of the passengers actually helped. Because all these years, we have been trying to get this done, and it never went up beyond 40% that there were remote check-ins. Today, the percentage is over 80%. And it happened overnight. It didn't take any time at all. For us, it reduced the contact between our employees and the customer. And the customers was pretty happy. People who don't have a bag, he doesn't have to do anything. There is another initiative which is in the offing, and that is not from the respective airlines. It is actually from Ministry of Civil Aviation, Airports Authority of India. They are introducing this the new initiative called DigiYatra, which is basis the facial recognition. One gets access to the terminal and thereby up to the boarding gate, all through the security and all that stuff. The pilot, the proof of concept was done by Indigo and Airport Authority of India. And the first pilot starts in the next 2 weeks in one of the airports. So those are some of the areas. The third thing which we did is for our cabin crew, who are in constant touch with the passengers, and we digitized. It was not something that it was a knee-jerk action. We have been there on that initiative for some time, but it helped us, as I said, it helped us to expedite, to change the priorities. And today, the entire journey of the crew, right from the time she leaves the hotel or her residence till the time she reaches, gets back there, is digitally transformed. There is no concept, or very, very little concept of paper out here, and that is primarily for regulatory purposes. The overall productivity and efficiency has actually improved significantly in terms of their briefing time, in terms of their check-in time, in terms of their reconciling what they sell on board, and so on. So those are some of the priorities. On the data side, and as Avik said, you do data analytics, and that's one of your main interests. Long-term planning has gone out of the window to a good extent. And historical data, where we used to do our forecasts based on 24 months, 36 months of data, that too has gone out of the window. Now it is more short-term planning with real short-term, very, very relevant data is what we have been able to do. And I think we are making good progress in that. And what we see is today we are operating 1,000 flights a day, and which we started off less than 200 in the month of May, end of May. So I think that is working, and the loads are also not very bad as we had expected, but it is definitely lower than our expectation. So these are some of the the new initiatives. I would say the prioritization of initiatives have happened, and that's how we are taking it forward. So data over a shorter period of time, planning over a shorter period of time, forecasting again, contactless or less contact travel, both for our employees as well as for our customers, are some of the focus areas, I must say, into this new normal.
Thank you. Vishnu, some thoughts from Microsoft on what the world can expect in the next few years and some cutting edge feel on tech from you?
Yeah, few years is very difficult to say, Avik. Like Saurav said, it's all real time now, living in the moment. But yeah, we are seeing two kinds of shifts. One shift is the way the work happens, right? And second shift is in the shift of certain business critical projects, right? There is a reshuffling of the project portfolio altogether. When it comes to the work ways, right? Remote working and all have become a norm. But what it has driven is what Annie was talking about, right? A lot of process automation, process digitalization and process automation is what is coming in. Starting from basic things like, when I say process digitalization, basic things like even audit, how do I make an audit a virtual audit? Where document sharing, monitoring of the process, the real-time video feed, everything combining together into one single collaboration platform. That's one example. But many of those work processes which required the physical touch between the employees and people, that is going digital through that. Second is in the way of process automation. I think Dr. Chatterjee also touched upon that. Annie also touched upon that. In the process automation. So technologies like platform which will help achieve this with very, very low coding. Can I get this process digitized in few days instead of actually waiting for a longer time? Or can I automate this process in few days to few weeks rather than waiting for a month of project? That is a shift that we are seeing as far as the digitalization of the work is considered. Second, you also talked about how the businesses are realigning their projects, right? I'm seeing a shift or sometimes a leap in the business critical projects. Earlier, a lot of our manufacturing customers were looking at majorly in the connectivity projects. How do I get my assets connected? Now the shift is, okay, so let's hold on to the connectivity for time being, or maybe we will slow it down. Let me focus on whatever is connected or whatever the data that I have. What do I achieve out of that quickly? What do I deliver to the business quickly with that data? Right. A few examples I would like to cite in that. One is, if I take process manufacturing, there is a lot of shift into the intelligent control system. So where we have seen the APC, advanced process controls. Now the leap is towards the intelligent process controls, intelligent control systems, ICS, where how do I embed at the machine layer itself or at the operations layer itself, how do I embed artificial intelligence? How do I make my cement plants more efficient, right? My vertical roller mill more efficient with an AI embedded into the APC? Or how do I make my steel plant more efficient with the AI embedded at the plant level itself instead of waiting for a cloud to come and solve the problem for me? That's one. And in the discrete, I'm seeing a lot of shift towards intelligent robotics. I mean, we have talked about cobots and intelligent robots. So I'm using the word intelligent robotics, where we're talking about how do we make the robots more efficient, right? We are working with, let's say, automotive manufacturers, where they are looking at how do I resequence the whole robotic arm movements so that the speed on my assembly line is much faster. Right. So that's the second kind of shift that we are seeing. Intelligent robotics is the second. And then third is the intelligent supply chains. I will talk about that intelligent supply chain, not just Microsoft as a technology provider, but we ourselves manufacture like hundreds of thousands of SKUs, shipping over hundreds of countries, 100+ countries. Right. It's a massive supply chain that Microsoft manages within our device portfolio. And then our supply chain journey actually started 3-4 years ago, of first getting the basic visibility into the supply chain process, to the extent of now, being able, the supply chain teams being able to predict or make more predictive decisions using the analytics. So that's a journey that we took about 4 years ago. Fortunately, that came very handy by the time this whole supply chain disruption happened because of the COVID. But more and more of our customers as well are now adopting this intelligent supply chain, taking the end-to-end view of S&OP and getting that demand, because the demand is changing, varying week by week, day by day, month by month. So how do I realign my supply chain to that with more real-time data rather than the historical data? I think these are the shifts in the projects, right? Intelligent control system, intelligent robotics, and intelligent supply chain. a lot of emphasis is being laid on these three aspects, Abhik.
Sure, thank you. I mean, I was just keeping an eye on time, and I was just wishing if the moment would have stopped and I could have posed a few more questions. But I know we have 6 of you. Let me pose one last question so that each of you can spend a minute and a half and share your experience and kind of bundle a few thoughts that I had. So, I mean, if I reflect on some of the comments that you made, digital is not new, it is continuing to happen. Perhaps the shape, form, and the future of it has evolved through the course of this year, some temporarily, some more permanently, right? Secondly, in pockets, there are excellent things that you're already doing, be it facial recognition, Saurabh spoke about, robotics that Dr. Pradeep and Vishnu spoke about, to, for example, a whole lot of automation and platformization that Annie and Sharad spoke about, right? My last or closing question to the 6 of you is on two, what I would say, on 2 planes. Number one is, in my experience of serving a lot of clients on their digital agenda and largely on the company agenda, is unless and until it is a business leadership priority agenda, it typically does not work. So my first part of the question is, how do each of you place, I mean, how has each of your companies taken digital ahead? And what is the kind of top-down involvement, leadership, sponsorship that each of you have seen? So that is one. And secondly is, I mean, India is a very pilot-hungry country, right? I mean, we love our bots, we love our 3-month gigs in our small areas. But what COVID has taught in a short while to us is ultimately it's about the people and the capability that we possess, right? So how did you, I mean, and each of you mentioned some really fabulous pieces of very interesting work. Typically, most of our organizations do not have plethora of that talent immediately available. So how do you solve for this talent gap, and whether you internally groom, use a bunch of partners, how do you cross that divide? So in closing, I would say 2 questions. How do you look forward to talent becoming really a weapon for you to augment the technology and just not the technology alone? And secondly, how does leadership view digital, and what are you guys perhaps doing interesting or different? So if it is okay, Annie, we start with you, followed by Nafaul, Sharad, and then I'll get my next 3 panelists on.
Yeah, so that's a 2-pronged question. One is leadership support for digital, and second one is how do I build agility into what we do, right? That's also what I have seen in my experience is that good ideas kind of bubble to the top. So it everything need not be top down. It is large transformations, like if I want to implement an SAP or I want to do a large major shift in the way we plan and execute, right? Those kind of initiatives typically need to be top down. Otherwise, most process automation, digital enablement initiatives I've seen come from the users themselves. And if we have achieved that, brought those ideas to the users, that they are able to adapt what other industries or other companies are doing, even from other domains, not necessarily from our competitors, but from the industry in general, what they're doing. If we are able to bring those ideas into the team, the ideation process happens very democratically, and we are able to implement those very quickly. Large-scale transformations typically need a very top-down mandated kind of approach. And that is where luckily we don't have too many of them, except that, yes, do we have the budgets when we need them, which is where a lot of the top management or the leadership support becomes essential. And we haven't found that a big challenge, except in case of, like, since most of our plant are existing plants, right? And any industry 4.0 needs a lot of investment. Those are the areas where we have had some challenges. Otherwise, investment has not been a big issue. We have tried to adopt a mix of in-house and external skills. Very difficult to keep bridging the gap. The technology is moving too fast for us to continuously have in-house talent completely inside. What we try to do is, however, once the external skills move out of the project, they transition skills internally so that we are able to support and manage it ourselves. And we also don't end up becoming dinosaurs. So that's the continuous focus always, that the teams should be upskilled and we retain good talent by continuously investing in them.
Sure. Thank you. Great points. You have successfully put time pressure on the others as well, Annie. So Naval, I'll request a minute quickly to provide your closing thoughts here.
Okay, in one word, okay, we are having the time. Okay, so in one word, if I want to say, the thing is that what I gather the knowledge, what I have the experience in this COVID-19. So thing is that to show my management about the risk factors without digitalizations, I will have to make some list and I'll submit to my management. Okay, this is the risk factors that you may face while you're doing the business, while you're doing the communication, while you're doing the data capturing from outside the country or outside or inside the country. So my main aim and my main findings is that to show all the risk factors without digitalization to my management when they ask me about the investment. So in one word, these are the risk factors to show my management to approve the budget and to go for execution in digitally.
Sure. Sharad, some interesting perspectives from the world of Tire.
So let me come to the talent part first. So I agree with Annie that it's difficult to have everyone in-house. It's important to reskill and upskill the existing team, but we depend a lot on our partner ecosystem for by means of outsourcing, insourcing. So as of now, we are having roughly a team of 20 partners who are helping us in our digitalization process. And in one of the projects that I was talking about, digital claims, there were 7 partners who were working on the same project. So that's about the talent. So coming from the top management perspective, the digital buzz is so much in the air that the management is more aware of everything than us. So they are coming to us asking what can be done. Yes, budgets are something which needs to be taken care of. So for that, what we normally do is that we carve out a part of our regular budget, do some small engagements, and then it's for them. Then we take it up to management to get the bigger approvals. But yes, management has always been supportive. So right now there's a town hall of our company going on. So our MD was focusing on that we have to keep our digital focus always. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Saurabh, Vishnu, and then Pradeep, if you can help us close.
From my side, Indigo, I would say everything translates from the promises that we make to our customers, which have always been on-time performance, hassle-free experience, affordable fares, and now it is the 4th aspect, which is health-safe travel. I think as long as we can convince our top management saying that it would address to help better deliver on these promises, we are good to go. And what we actually do on our talent base, we keep till about solution designing with us. And as far as the technical development, testing and all that stuff, the unit testing and all that, we actually get it done from the vendors. So just to keep it very short, this is what I would say in terms of your last question, Abhi.
Thank you. Pradeep, quickly, and then we'll go to Vishnu.
Yeah. So from a talent perspective, yes, we are trying to do it through our digital ecosystem. We are working in close coordination with the university, colleges, startups, as well as with technology providers to come to a particular solution. From a senior management or a senior leadership involvement, I think the best part is they are very much aware about the digital solutions and what benefits it can bring in from various forums. They are having that knowledge. So earlier, I will say the way they used to look at IT as a support function, but the perspective for digital has changed in the senior management, and they are actually looking at digital as a new way of doing business. So that perspective has changed, and that is actually helping us a lot in order to drive the digital projects.
Sure. Vishnu?
Sure. So from talent perspective, there are multiple things. One is we are seeing our customers using advanced technologies, starting from recruitment process itself, like using AI to recruit right people into right jobs. But I would say the focus should be more on the focus is rather on the more of the talent retention side, where providing more better digital tools for the younger generation workforce. I think that's a focus which is very, very critically required. And then also fortifying that digital tools with kind of cyber security is very, very important. That's on the talent side. And second, from a talent execution standpoint, it's more of an ecosystem approach that we at Microsoft are also taking and our customers are also looking at. Leverage more and more of the partner solutions, more and more, bring a whole plethora of ecosystem of partners who can execute that on what you talked about, Abhik, at the start, more of a common platform, but different solutions is what I would look at.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much. So to summarize, I think some great points and reflections right from how each of you, I think, demonstrated agility and outcome in this interim world. It has not been easy, but you've calibrated tech, calibrated people, calibrated leadership to draw outcomes. I think that was the survive part, and I'm sure as the new year begins, hopefully the thrive part also kicks in soon. And wishing all of you good health, a whole lot of innovation that you're doing into your business, and some great stories that we look forward to. And a huge round of thank you also to ET for having us and share our perspective. And from me, Abhik, and on behalf of all the panelists, a big thank you and signing off.